My wife wanted fresh herbs in the kitchen. Not a garden, not a project, just something she could reach for while she was cooking. She was specific about it. No soil on the counter, no pots to water, nothing that needed tending. I told her that wasn't how plants worked. I was wrong. Nobody's fault. Everything you read sends you straight to soil mixes and drainage schedules. Nobody mentions the glass of tap water on the windowsill. Cut a stem just below a leaf node. Drop it in a glass of water on the windowsill. In a week, you have roots. After that, you're picking leaves for dinner. 10 herbs. The one near the end grows faster in water than it ever did in soil. And it's the one most people throw in the compost without a second thought. Number 1. Basil. A half-dead stem from the bottom of a grocery bunch will root in 6 days. I tested this on the worst one I could find, tall and stretched, reaching for light, yellowing at the base. 6 days. New leaves by day 10. One thing basil needs that the others don't ask for as loudly. Fresh water every 3 or 4 days. Leave it longer and the stem goes soft. Keep the water clean and it stays vigorous. Now, basil wants clean water on a schedule. The next one barely notices if you forget. Number 2. Mint. Mint roots in water in 3 to 4 days, sometimes less. It's difficult to take credit for. What nobody mentions, once mint roots in water, it will live there indefinitely. You don't have to pot it up at all. Just keep the water topped up and take leaves as you need them. My wife has had the same mint jar going since last October, so those two go fast. The next one takes its time, and it needs a different setup entirely. Number 3. Cilantro. Cilantro is the slow one, and the first exception to the glass method. 2 weeks to root, sometimes close to 3. It also needs a different container. Not a jar, a wide, shallow bowl. The stems are thin, and the roots spread sideways before they go down. A jar crowds them. A bowl gives them room. The water temperature matters more than people think. Cold tap water straight from the faucet slows rooting, sometimes by several days. Let it sit for 10 minutes first, or fill the jar the night before. That alone took a week off my timing. I looked into why the bowl works. The lateral root growth is the plant trying to maximize surface contact with the water. Give it width, and it sets faster. Nobody prints that on the pot at the garden center. Once it roots, the leaves it gives you are younger and milder than anything from a store. Now, chives are the second exception. Different plant, different approach entirely. Number 4. Chives. Chives are the second exception to the glass method. They don't propagate from a stem cutting. You take a clump from a pot you already own or from the store, rinse the soil off the roots, and set it in a shallow dish with just enough water to cover the base. The existing blades keep growing. Cut from the top and it pushes new growth from the bottom. One thing worth knowing, chives need the brightest window you have. A dim corner yellows them inside 2 weeks. Move the clump, keep the water fresh, and chives will outlast everything else on this windowsill. Before the next 5, one thing that makes all of these work better. One thing I figured out a few months in that nobody mentions in any of the guides. The jar color matters. Clear glass lets light reach the water. Algae follows. It won't kill the plant, but it turns the water green and cloudy, and then you're changing it twice as often. A dark jar, ceramic, colored glass, or a clear jar wrapped with a strip of brown paper blocks the light and stops algae before it starts. The herbs don't care what the container looks like. That's for you 6 weeks from now, when the other jar has gone murky and yours hasn't. Number 5. Green onions. Most people use the green tops, then put the white root ends in the compost. That's the part that regrows. Set those white ends in a jar with an inch of water.
just enough to cover the roots, not the bulb. In 2 days, there will be green shoots. In a week, you're cutting from them again, indefinitely. The part you were throwing away was already loaded with stored energy. My daughter, the plant biologist, calls that apical dominance reversal. The roots just need to stay damp to do what they were going to do anyway. I call it the compost mistake. The next one, most people grow in soil just fine, but in water, it does something soil doesn't let it do. Number 6. Lemon balm. Lemon balm grown in soil spreads aggressively. In water, it stays contained and roots in 8 to 12 days.
The scent compound is citrinolol, the same one in citronella grass. So a jar of lemon balm near an open window gives you fresh leaves for cooking or tea and quietly repels mosquitoes at the same time. 2 jobs. Nobody mentions that. My grandson rubbed a handful on his arms last July. Came inside claiming it hadn't worked. Didn't have a single bite. Lemon balm is a surprise once you know the chemistry. The next one is a surprise because of the number. Number 7. Stevia. A single fresh stevia leaf is 200 to 300 times sweeter than sugar by weight. That's a documented figure, not an exaggeration. It roots from a stem cutting in about 2 weeks using the same technique as basil, same node placement, same water change schedule. 2 weeks for a plant that outperforms sugar by 300 to 1. I've made worse trades in the garden. So stevia is the sweet one. The next herb is the one the grocery store almost never carries fresh, which is the whole reason to root it yourself. Number 8. Tarragon. French tarragon almost never appears fresh at a grocery store because it can't be grown from seed. It has to be propagated from a cutting, which means the only way most people can get it fresh is to grow it themselves. In water, it roots in 10 days to 2 weeks. Give it a node, a clean glass, and indirect light. One thing worth knowing before you go to the garden center: there are 2 kinds. French tarragon has the anise flavor. Sharp, clean, unmistakable. Russian tarragon looks similar and tastes like very little. Ask for French by name. Number 9. Watercress. This next one roots in 48 hours, sometimes less. The stem is hollow with no dense core for the water to work through, so it draws moisture straight up and puts roots down almost immediately. Most people think of it as a salad ingredient. It's also the fastest rooting herb on this list. This is the one the intro promised. Watercress is a semi-aquatic plant. In soil, it needs constant moisture management. In water, it's already in its natural element, which is why it roots in 2 days instead of 2 weeks. Number 10. Parsley. The last one was carried on long sea voyages before refrigeration existed because of one thing: it's packed with vitamin C. Researchers at the University of Maryland put the content of fresh parsley at roughly twice that of citrus by weight. Give it a stem cutting, a glass, a window. 8 days to root. 2 weeks after that, you'll have more than you're using. 10 herbs, 1 glass of water, a bright window. You now have a windowsill that earns its place. Cut what you need, top up the water, and it keeps going. No bags of soil, no drainage schedule, nothing that needs tending.